So I decided I wanted to build me a flip top workstation for my belt sander and spindle sander, which you see off to the side there. They're taking up space on that bench, and I decided I wanted to move my chop box, or miter saw anyway, over to that bench. So I went out and I got a couple of slabs that I cut last April and straight edged them with the circular saw, and then I cut them in half because nothing on this bench is longer than 32 inches, so that works out fine. But it's a lot easier to run things on my very small 6-inch jointer if they're shorter. So just cut them in half real quick, and then went over and jointed all the edges. I didn't video that part, but got it up here to the bandsaw and cut them into 3 3/4 inch widths. The stock is 1 3/4 thick, so when I get done planing it, I should have basically hardwood 2x4s at 3.5 by 1.5. Between each cut, I actually ran over to the jointer and smoothed off the bandsaw cuts from the previous cut, so it just saves me work later on, and then it doesn't because I ended up gang planing them on the planer later on, but you'll see that here in a little bit. Then it was on to the planer. First I planed the surfaces, and I think all but 3 boards got completely clear. There was a couple that, a few of the bandsaw marks didn't come all the way out, but as it turned out, there was 3 boards that I didn't need, and guess which 3 those were? Pardon me. Anyway, after doing all that, I got them down to the 1.5 inch. I flipped them up on edge, and I use a clamp to hold a group of 4 together and make sure that one side's nice and flat and level. But I use a clamp on each end like this and gang plane the entire edge. Now, because they're clamped against each other, the edge surface that's facing up there stays perfectly square to the faces, and then I don't have to worry about my fact that the little 6-inch joiner we have is rather old and the fence never stays square. I mean, literally it'll move out of position as you push something across, so I use it more as a straight edge than I do as a squaring device. So anyway, got that done, and then I was able to send them through in pairs. Once I had them all paralleled, I was able to send them through in pairs to get the dimension I needed, down to 3.5. So then it's on to the chop box and cutting my lengths for all the pieces that I'm going to be needing for this project. And also, the maple's making up the cart portion, and then the walnut is actually going to make up the sides of the flip top. And I'm going to dado or rabbet, the edges of them, and actually have everything inset so the plywood surfaces on it will be inset into the walnut. Putting a cabinet on the end of this thing to put all the accessories for the sanders in, all the extra sandpapers and whatnot. And so I needed to cut the panels out for it. So that was the top that I just cut, and then there's the bottom and one of the shelves and the other shelf, which are technically too long just yet, so I got to cut a little bit off of each one of those and do that with the crosscut sled. You know, I'd never used a crosscut sled much, and then I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos and the guys using them, and I said, well, you know, I'm going to make me one, and I love it. It's an awesome little thing. I've never paid much attention to them before. But I was always well, not always, but I did a lot of on-site job work, and you just didn't have room to be carrying a crosscut sled. So, and in the cabinet shops that I worked in, we always had big sliding table saws, which you don't need a crosscut sled for. So, and you could crosscut a 4x8 sheet on the sliding table saw. So here's the sides, and then I gotta revamp and do the back. And then I use the leftover piece from cutting these out that's off to the side there at the moment to cut the top and bottom of the flip table. Get them all cleaned up. Now here's the sides of the flip table, and as I said, I'm just going to rabbet them, but of course I'm kind of cheating on my, I don't have a tenon jig to cut the ends like that, so I've done it before many times, and as long as you know what you're doing, it's not too awfully bad, especially on a piece that wide. So I wouldn't do that with a 1-inch wide piece, but these 3.5s are not bad. So then I've reset the saw and cut the other half of the rabbets, and then I use the sled again to cut the end rabbets in. So I decided to go ahead and put dowels in the frame on the end pieces because they were just going to be butt joints, and I'm going to pocket screw them, but I figured the dowel would give a little extra strength, and it did. When it was all done, it was very, very solid, so it works out. I didn't even bother putting braces at the bottom as I suspected I might need to, and that's something I can always add later on if I want. But anyway, this is an antique doweling jig that my dad had. I'm sure it's 34 years old. Almost as old as me. So then I pocket hold. Yeah, then I put the pocket holes in and did it on the ends and the sides of the bottom and the uprights for the ends, or for the end. This is kind of an L-shaped frame when I'm done here. You'll see in a moment. I didn't bother doweling the ends of the base together where the end grain was meeting the side grain. I figured the pocket screws will be enough, and the glue, of course. I clamped it up first, and then used the quick clamp to hold it while I put the pocket screws in. Flip it to the other end there. That way it doesn't slide out of place. I mean, anybody that uses pocket screws kind of knows that that's a good idea. So now I can add the top, and my dowels were just smooth dowels, so I used a pair of channel locks to kind of cut grooves into them, just kind of crimped in with the jaws, and to allow like flutes for the glue. I just didn't have any dowels around, so anyway, but put that together and shot it with the screws, and then did the other side the same way. And then we go ahead and we'll get the top rail put on here. Nice and messy. I grab a paper towel to wipe up the excess glue, but you know, figure save me some time sanding later. I couldn't find my little, what do you call them, vice grip style locking pliers with the pads to hold for the pocket screws. It didn't work on the other joints anyway, but so now I can throw this cabinet together. I went ahead and sanded one side of all this plywood. This is just construction grade plywood. It's really crappy stuff, but at least it was solid and, you know, not that big of a deal. I wasn't needing a real fancy cabinet, just something to hold the sandpaper and whatnot that's up on the wall right now, and a couple of the it's got to hold the spindles for the spindle sander and such too, but it didn't have to be anything fancy. I will probably put a door on it later. I don't think I'll put double doors, but I will put a single door. Oh, and I had it forgot to cut the sides to length, so they were the wrong size. And then when I measured everything out, it comes to find out I cut too much off of the back, so that was kind of funny. So I added a piece of walnut from the top, the pieces of the top, one of the pieces that came out of the rabbits, in there just to kind of fill it in. This whole cabinet's getting painted anyway, so it'll just cover up the walnuts, no big deal. I actually just wanted to play around with that thick stock. The real reason for making this is because I wanted to mess with the slabs. That was it, yeah. Anyway, here's the sides of the flip top, and I've got them clamped together and actually lined up so that when I drill this hole, it's straight through when I put the box together that holds it, which, by the way, the box making didn't get filmed because something happened. I hit the wrong button or something, but anyway, I didn't have footage for that. So there's the box all put together, and the first piece of plywood set on there, and I've marked the holes for the spindle sander, and then put in T-nuts on the bottom side. And then I pop that one out, put the other one on, do the same thing again for the belt sander. And when I marked the holes, I didn't mark it well enough, and I actually drilled the hole in the wrong place. And then I had to take it all back apart when I realized that, and drill a different hole and put the T-nut in. But that's why I went ahead. I knew that someday I might want to change the machine, was my reasoning, to a different machine. So I screwed these tops on so I could take them off to change where the T-nuts were on the back side. And I had to do it sooner than I thought I would have to. Things happen, you know. So I got those all screwed down. And the pivot for this is a piece of pipe out of my welding shop. I just went in and grabbed something. It'll be plenty strong, that's for sure. And it's 1.25 inches in diameter, and it's really tight in 1.25 inches. So the holes in the top are 1.25 inches, and then the holes in this are 1 3/8. Now I figured that'd give me a little bit of room to play and make sure everything lined up, but as it turned out, that still wasn't enough on the cabinet side. What I ended up doing was drilling it out to 1.5 inches, and then drilling another hole in a piece of plywood, and I actually screwed it inside of it once I had everything lined up. So it gave me some adjustment, which worked out actually for the better. I was able to actually adjust it so that everything was set square. I was able to move it around a little bit in there. Technically, I could have cut a square notch and put the little block on the inside to let me move it, but that wasn't why I did it. So then I get the frame all sanded up, and I'm going to throw it down there on the ground. Oh, I did add in a cross member there that will be underneath the back side of the cabinet. It's going on casters, but I wanted it to look like, I didn't want it to look like I had a big gap under the cabinet, so I threw that in there. It's not needed for strength or anything, although it probably doesn't hurt. Anyway, once we got all sanded, we stuck the cabinet on there, make sure everything looked good, and then stuck the top in there. And you'll see I go around here as I'm working up there at the top. That means I'm putting that little adjustable plate in there, and I'm going to flip it around a couple times and make sure that everything's lined up, and then screw the cabinet down. Probably should have screwed the cabinet down first, but hey, it worked out, so we won't complain. And then I'm going to have to flip it down off of here, and I'll put the casters on. I'll flip it upside down here. And I put straight casters at the cabinet end and put swivel casters at the leg end. I guess you'd call it that. But the straight casters are actually 1/4 inch shorter than the others, so I cut little 1/4-inch blocks and put underneath there before I screwed them down. And of course, no project ever is complete without having a screw blow out the end of a piece of maple. So I had to glue that in there and clamp it up and finish the project before I even bothered taking the clamp off. I just left it on and it worked out. So I had to resand it. That's about the worst of it. So now I had to lock it so that, or make it so that the top locked in the flat position. I drilled a 1/4-inch hole through there, then took a 1/4-inch piece of metal and bent it in an L, sanded it real smooth so it would go in and out of there pretty easily. And that holds it in place while whichever piece of equipment is facing up. So this is where I discovered I had put that hole in the wrong place. I marked it and drilled it, and I had to take the top off and move the T-nut and then put it all back on. It only took a moment, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but that's why I screwed it on. So if I screwed up, I could unscrew it. And truth be known, when I flipped it over, and I don't have this part on film, but when I flipped it over, I went to put the spindle sander on and realized I had knocked out 2 of the T-nuts. So I had to take that one off and put the T-nuts back in. But the holes were in the right place at least. So once I got him all bolted down, flipped him over, I was actually starting to grin from ear to ear. I like the way this works. Oh yeah, I had to drill the second indexing hole for the stop. And then we got the spindle sander up there. This came about because I've been really upset with the way the flow in the shop is. And the first thing I wanted to move was the miter box because it's in a bad location. It was crowded over there. And this bench that these sanders were on is where I want to move it to. After I had built this thing and moved the miter box, I was like, well, now I got that space over there, you know, what else can I do with it? And so I started watching shop organizational videos and have revamped the entire shop. So be looking forward to a new 2017 shop tour coming up soon because I made a whole lot of changes. I did some painting and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, here I'm getting the sanding belts and stuff. I'm in regular speed now, so you can see how actually slow I actually am and why I do my videos in high speed. I'm getting all the accessories and put them in the cabinet on the end. I had to take all the plates and spindles for the spindle sander off before I flipped it that first time. I'm thinking I did pretty good to realize that before I flipped it over and dumped them everywhere. But this little cart is actually very handy already. You know, I can roll this over out of the way, and there's room for everything. But I've been real pleased with the way the shop's turning out. I just need to finish it so that I can show it to y'all. But it looks a lot neater, so it'll make a better background for my future videos. And I am going to be doing a sawmill video pretty soon too. I have some cedar that I need to cut up for my cousin, and I think I'm just going to film that while I do it because it's some really big logs, and we're making siding out of it. So we're cutting it at like 5/8, so it should be a lot of wood when we're done. So that'll be kind of fun. Not much excitement, but you know, you get to see the sawmill working and on its new tracks. I don't think I've had it on video since I put the new tracks on, because the new tracks are the give me the 17-foot length. So, but there it is. It rolls around. I'm locking it there, and when you lock it, it stays put. It's got the neoprene style tires on it rather than the hard plastic, so it really does stay put, which is good. Really happy about that. So let me show you a couple pictures of it when it was all done after I got the finish on it. On the wood, I just put some shellac on it and called it good. But yep, this is a real happy thing. I hope that y'all found the technique that I use here helpful. And well, keep coming back to Uncle Si's wood shop, because it's just going to get better and better. We're going to be doing more than just wood turning, although that'll still be in there because it's still my favorite. Alright, y'all have a good day.